All right, today we're talking about the music industry. And let's be real, it's fucking broken. Labels take 80%. Spotify pays peanuts per stream. Could blockchain be the fix we've all been waiting for? But before we dive in, here's the deal. Over 60% of you aren't following us yet. Do us a favor, hit that follow button, collect our episodes on pods.media, and let's keep the good stuff coming. Thanks, everyone. Now, you've been digging into this world lately, haven't you? We've got reports, projections, some pretty wild stories. Ready to break it all down?
Absolutely. The music industry is ripe for disruption, and blockchain is poised to play a major role. What's fascinating is how this technology could shift the balance of power, giving artists more control and fans a deeper connection to the music they love.
Okay, so before we get into the blockchain savior part of this deep dive, let's paint a picture of just how bad things are right now. We've all heard the horror stories, but what are the cold, hard facts?
Well, for starters, major labels often gobble up a huge chunk of an artist's earnings, sometimes up to 80%. And streaming services. They pay artists a pittance per stream. On Spotify, we're talking about 33,000 streams just to make $1,000. It's no wonder so many artists, even those with millions of streams, struggle to make a living.
It's mind-boggling. And it's not just the unknowns struggling, right? We've got sources here talking about Nas, a hip-hop legend, having issues actually receiving the money he was owed.
Exactly. Even established artists with massive catalogs face challenges. The system for collecting and distributing royalties is riddled with inefficiencies. In fact, a shocking 40% of royalties go unclaimed because of rights issues and bureaucratic delays.
So where does blockchain enter the picture? How does it address these fundamental problems that are basically suffocating the music industry?
Blockchain offers some radical solutions. One of the most promising is the use of smart contracts. These are basically self-executing agreements baked into the blockchain code. Imagine a song gets streamed. A smart contract triggers an instant payment to the artist and collaborators, cutting out the middlemen and ensuring everyone gets their fair share.
No more waiting months for a royalty check. What does that split look like, ideally?
We're seeing models where the artist receives up to 70% of the revenue, with the remaining 30% distributed among collaborators, all paid out instantly in stablecoins. These are digital currencies pegged to the US dollar, so they offer stability, unlike the volatile cryptocurrencies you might hear about.
So no more shady accounting practices, no more labels taking the lion's share, just instant, transparent payments directly to the people who created the music. I'm already liking where this is going. And then there are these things called NFTs. Everyone's talking about them, but how do they fit into all of this?
NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, offer a way to own unique digital assets. Think of them as digital certificates of ownership. And in the music world, they're opening up exciting possibilities.
Like what? Give me a real-world scenario.
Imagine an artist sells a track as an NFT. Not just a copy, but a unique digital original. They can embed a royalty agreement into that NFT, so every time it's resold, they automatically get a cut, say 10%. They continue earning from their creation long after the initial sale.
Okay, I'm seeing the appeal. And we've got data here showing this isn't just a pipe dream. The music NFT market is predicted to explode from $20 million this year to $100 million in 2025. Are there artists already doing this?
Absolutely. Nas, for example, decided to tokenize some of his tracks on a platform called Royal, and they managed to raise a staggering $50 million in fan investments.
$50 million. That's huge.
Yeah.
So fans are buying into this concept. They're willing to invest in their favorite artist's work. What's the catch? There has to be a downside, right?
Yeah. Well, blockchain adoption in the music industry faces a few hurdles. One of the biggest is simply getting everyone on board. It requires a mind shift for artists, labels, and fans. They all need to understand and embrace this new technology, which can be a steep learning curve for many.
Right. Blockchain still feels like this mysterious, complicated world to a lot of people. It's not exactly the most user-friendly technology out there. What are some of the other challenges?
The legal landscape is a bit of a minefield. Copyright laws are outdated, and there's a lot of uncertainty around how NFTs and royalties will be treated legally. We need updated regulations that reflect this new reality. And then there are the technical challenges. Streaming billions of songs on a blockchain platform requires immense computing power, leading to concerns about high transaction fees on Ethereum, scalability issues on Solana, and even the potential environmental impact of blockchain technology.
Okay, so it's not a perfect solution yet, but let's imagine for a second that these challenges are overcome. What does the future of music look like if blockchain really takes off?
That's where things get really interesting. We're talking about a fundamental power shift, a redistribution of control and wealth within the music ecosystem.
Okay, I'm hooked. Paint me a picture of this blockchain-powered future. What changes for artists, for fans, for the industry as a whole.
Imagine a world where artists have complete control over their work. They own their masters, they set their own prices, and they build direct relationships with their fans through blockchain platforms. They become their own labels, their own distributors, their own marketing machines.
No more relying on those big, bad record labels.
Potentially, we could see a future where record labels, as we know them, become obsolete. Instead, artists might form their own decentralized collectives, collaborating and supporting each other on blockchain platforms. It's a model that emphasizes creative freedom and community over corporate control and profit maximization.
So it's not just about making more money, it's about having more ownership and autonomy. And what about the fans? How does this blockchain revolution change their experience?
It empowers fans in ways we've never seen before. They can become more than just passive listeners. They can become investors and stakeholders in their favorite artists' careers. Through tokenized music and NFTs, fans can unlock unique benefits. Things like gig tickets, VIP perks, and even a share of the artist's revenue.
It's almost like a new era of fandom where fans and artists are more closely intertwined. And this isn't just speculation, right? There are already platforms out there making this happen.
Absolutely. We've got a whole list here of platforms leading the charge. We've already touched on Royal, which is facilitating these fair investments. But there are others like Audius, HIO Music, Sound.xyz, and Cooprecs.fun, each with its own unique approach to leveraging blockchain technology in the music industry.
Right, this is getting good. But before we dive into the specifics of these platforms, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll unpack what makes each of them unique and explore their potential impact on the music landscape.
All right, let's get into the nuts and bolts of these platforms. You mentioned Royal earlier, and it's a great place to start. They've made a real splash by allowing fans to invest in an artist's royalties through blockchain technology.
Yeah, that $50 million figure from Nas really caught my attention. Seems like they're attracting some serious players. What's the draw for artists like Nas?
What's interesting is that for an artist like Nas, it's not just about the money. Though $50 million is certainly nothing to sneeze at, it's about independence. He's spoken out about the frustrations of the traditional music industry, the lack of transparency, the feeling of being exploited by the system. Royal allows him to bypass all of that, connect directly with his fans, and give them a stake in his success.
It's like building a loyal fan base that's literally invested in your success. Brilliant. And what about the fans? What are they getting out of it?
For fans, it's a chance to be more than just listeners. They become micro-investors, supporting the artists they love and potentially reaping financial rewards if those artists continue to succeed. They get the satisfaction of knowing they're directly contributing to the music they enjoy. And of course, there's the potential for bragging rights. I own a piece of Nas's next album.
That's a pretty powerful feeling, I imagine. And this is all happening on the Ethereum blockchain, right? I know there are other blockchains out there being used in the music space.
There are, and one of the most notable is Solana, which is known for its speed and low transaction fees. That's where Audius comes in. They're essentially creating a decentralized version of Spotify built on the Solana blockchain.
We touched on them briefly earlier. They've had a pretty impressive user base already. 10 million monthly active users, if I remember correctly. What's driving that growth?
It's a combination of factors. For artists, it's the promise of greater control and fairer compensation. Audius cuts out the intermediaries, allowing artists to upload their music directly to the platform and receive up to 90% of the revenue generated from their streams. They also have a unique payout system using their own AUDO token, which gives artists more flexibility and potentially even greater earning potential.
So it's a direct challenge to the Spotify model, putting the power back in the hands of the artists. What about the listener experience? What makes Audius different from just using Spotify or Apple Music?
Audius is all about community and engagement. Fans can stake Audius tokens to earn rewards, influence the platform's governance, and even access exclusive content from their favorite artists. It's a more participatory experience, almost like a social network built around music.
Okay, that's interesting. So they're not just replicating the existing streaming model. They're building something new, something more interactive and community-driven. I can see why they're growing so quickly. Now, what about HIO Music? They're also on Solana, right? What sets them apart?
Music takes a different approach. Instead of focusing on independent artists, they've partnered with major labels and publishers to secure the rights to a massive catalog of over 6 million songs.
That's a huge library. So are they essentially a blockchain-powered version of a traditional streaming service?
You could say that. Their business model is actually quite simple. They offer subscriptions, just like Spotify or Apple Music, but 100% of those subscription fees go directly to the rights holders, paid out in cryptocurrency.
So they're cutting out the middlemen and ensuring that the artists and labels who own the music get their fair share. That's a pretty compelling value proposition, and it seems to be working for them. They're on track to hit $20 million in revenue by the end of this year.
All right, so we've got Royal, Audius, and HIO Music,
Hmm.
all focused on streaming and fan engagement in various forms. What about Sound.xyz? They're the ones diving headfirst into the world of music NFTs, right?
That's right. They're all about limited edition collectible music NFTs. So less about streaming and more about owning a piece of digital music history. I know they've worked with some big names like 3LAU, but who else is using this platform?
They're attracting a diverse range of artists, from established names to up-and-coming talent. What's interesting about Sound.xyz is that they've created a platform where music discovery and collecting intersect. Fans can browse through limited edition releases, often accompanied by unique artwork or bonus content, and purchase NFTs that represent ownership of these digital originals.
It's like owning a rare vinyl record or a limited edition print, but in the digital realm. There's a certain exclusivity and collectors appeal to it. Okay, last but not least, tell me about Cooprecs.fun. They're the ones with that intriguing Coop protocol model, right? I have to admit, I'm still a bit fuzzy on how it all works.
It is a bit unconventional. Imagine each song launches with 1 billion coins. 80% of these are sold for a fixed price in Ethereum, creating a liquidity pool on Uniswap, which is a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange.
Okay, you're gonna have to break that down for me. What's a liquidity pool, and how does that benefit the artist?
Think of a liquidity pool like a big pot of cryptocurrency that's used to facilitate trading. The remaining 20% of the song's coins are added to this pool. Now, fans can buy and sell those coins on Uniswap. And here's the ingenious part. With every trade, the artist earns a small percentage, typically 0.5%.
So the artist's earnings are tied to the trading volume of their song's coins. The more popular the song, the more trading activity, the more money the artist makes. That's brilliant. And they've had some early successes with artists like Lazeo and Zed's Dead, proving that this model can actually work.
It's a model that incentivizes both artists and fans. Artists are rewarded for creating music that resonates with people, and fans are incentivized to participate in the ecosystem, knowing that their trading activity directly benefits the artists they support.
It's a win-win situation. I'm sensing a theme here. Almost all of these platforms are about putting more power in the hands of artists and creating more direct connections with fans.
Exactly. That's the underlying ethos of this blockchain music movement, shifting the balance of power, fostering a more equitable and transparent ecosystem where artists and fans can thrive together.
It's inspiring, honestly, but sometimes when something sounds this good, I get a little skeptical. Are there any downsides to all of this? What are we not talking about?
That's a great question, and it's important to be realistic about the challenges ahead. One potential issue is accessibility. Blockchain technology is still relatively new and complex. Not everyone is comfortable navigating this world, and it can be a barrier to entry for both artists and fans.
Right. Not everyone is tech savvy enough to understand how to set up a crypto wallet, buy NFTs, or navigate decentralized platforms.
Exactly. There's a risk that this new ecosystem could create a digital divide, excluding those who aren't tech savvy or who lack the financial resources to participate. It's important that as this technology evolves, we prioritize education and make these platforms more user-friendly.
So user-friendliness is key to mass adoption. What else should we be mindful of as this space continues to develop?
Sustainability is another big one. We've already touched on the energy consumption of some blockchains, particularly those that use a proof-of-work consensus mechanism. As the music industry embraces blockchain, it's crucial that we prioritize environmentally friendly solutions.
Yeah, the last thing we want is for this revolutionary technology to contribute to climate change. Hopefully, as the technology matures, we'll see more energy-efficient blockchains become the norm.
We will. There's a lot of innovation happening in that space.
Yeah.
And as more people become aware of the environmental impact, there will be more pressure on platforms to adopt sustainable practices.
All right, I'm feeling a bit more grounded now. So we've got these amazing platforms with innovative models, but there are still challenges to overcome. It's almost like we're at a crossroads. Where do we go from here? What's the next chapter in this blockchain music saga?
That's what I find so fascinating about this whole thing. It's still early days, and the future is very much being written right now.
Okay, I'm ready for the next chapter. Let's take a quick break and then dive into what this future might look like, what trends to watch, and what big questions we need to be asking.
So we've looked at the problems plaguing the music industry, explored blockchain as a potential solution, and even peeked into some platforms leading this charge. But where does it all go from here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We've seen glimpses of what a blockchain-powered future might look like, but what are the long-term implications? What should our listeners be paying attention to as this story unfolds?
One of the most significant shifts we're likely to see is the rise of the artist entrepreneur. As blockchain removes barriers and empowers creators, artists will have unprecedented control over their careers. They'll become savvy business owners, building direct relationships with fans, managing their own finances, and making strategic decisions about their creative output.
So we're not just talking about musicians anymore. We're talking about CEOs, marketers, community builders, artists wearing multiple hats.
Exactly. And this entrepreneurial spirit will extend to the fan experience as well. We've already touched on fan investments and tokenized music, but imagine a future where fans can use their NFTs to unlock exclusive experiences like backstage access at concerts, personalized merchandise, even the opportunity to collaborate with their favorite artists on creative projects.
Taking fan engagement to a whole new level, transforming passive listeners into active participants in the creative process.
Precisely. And as these communities grow and evolve, they could become powerful forces in the music industry, driving trends, shaping tastes, and even funding the next generation of artists.
It's almost like a democratization of the music industry, where power is distributed more evenly among artists and fans. But what about the traditional players, the big record labels and streaming giants? Do they just fade into the background?
That's a fascinating question. Some experts believe that record labels, as we know them, could become obsolete. Others argue that they'll adapt and evolve, finding ways to integrate blockchain technology into their existing models. Perhaps they'll become more like talent agencies, providing support services to artists who are increasingly operating independently.
So it's not necessarily about wiping out the old guard. It's about creating a more level playing field where artists have more options and more leverage. And what about the streaming giants like Spotify? How do they fit into this blockchain-powered future?
They face a similar challenge. If artists can connect directly with fans and distribute their music through decentralized platforms, the role of these centralized streaming services might diminish.
Right, they become less essential, less of a gatekeeper. So what's the play for them? It's a classic disruption story, isn't it? The old guard faces a choice, adapt or die. And the winners will be those who embrace change, who prioritize the needs of artists and fans, and who harness the power of this transformative technology. But let's not forget about the challenges we discussed earlier. Even with all this potential, there are still hurdles to overcome, right?
Absolutely. Accessibility, sustainability, regulatory uncertainty, these are all issues that need to be addressed if blockchain is to truly revolutionize the music industry. And there's always the possibility that it could become another overhyped technology that fails to live up to its promise.
So it's not a guaranteed happy ending.
There are no guarantees in this game. But even if blockchain doesn't completely upend the music industry, it's already forcing us to rethink the way things work, to question assumptions, and to explore new possibilities. And that in itself is a valuable contribution.
It's a conversation starter, a catalyst for change. And that's what we've tried to do today, spark a conversation, share some insights, and hopefully inspire our listeners to think differently about the future of music.
I think we've accomplished that, and I'm genuinely excited to see how this all plays out. The next few years will be crucial in determining the trajectory of this blockchain music movement.
Well, we'll be here to cover it every step of the way. For our listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring this fascinating world. Dive into the platforms we discussed, do your own research, and most importantly, support the artists who are pushing boundaries and shaping the future of music.
Absolutely. Engage with the community, ask questions, challenge assumptions, and be part of this exciting evolution.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap things up for today. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.